Hello and welcome. I'm Camila Lemia and this is Rappler Talk. Today we will be talking to the newly appointed Administrator of the Philippine Coconut Authority, Mr. Romulo de la Rosa. We will be talking to him about the future of the coconut industry in the country, as well as the most awaited return of the multi-billion coconut levy funds to our farmers. Sir, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Camila. And good afternoon to the viewers.
Sir, first, I hope you can tell us how you got appointed to the PCA board and eventually as the administrator. Because we all know the much publicized corruption controversy against your predecessor, Avelino Andal.
Yeah. Well, I was appointed by the President to the board of the PCA in March of this year. And then I was elected by the board to be the PCA administrator in, well, last week in June. And I took my oath of office last Monday. The process of selecting the PCA administrator is by election, and it will be, well, confirmed by the President, of course. But all of the administrators are board members because they elected by the board themselves. That's the process as defined under the Charter of PCA.
But before you got appointed to the PCA board, you were already working for the industry, right?
No, my entire career up to until this was with the non-governmental organizations. I was executive director of a Mindanao-based research NGO, Alternate Forum for Research in Mindanao, after which I worked with a couple of international organizations. My last job was as program officer of the Dutch donor agency ICCO. I was based in Bali, Indonesia for 6 years and was in charge of projects in the Philippines and regional projects in Southeast Asia.
You've been following the trends and the problems in the Philippine coconut industry. What can you say is the difference between the industry now and 30 years ago, 20 years ago?
I did a major research on the Philippine coconut industry in 1993 in the UK. I was a research student at the Royal Agricultural College in Cirencester in England, after which I was enrolled as a master's student at the University of Buckingham in the same country. And the work that I did as a research student in the UK and as a master's student was about the coconut industry. So if you ask me what is the difference between then and now, there is very little, in the sense that the industry has grown, has progressed very little from the time of the Spaniards, when we were exporting, we were bringing whole coconuts to Mexico through the galleon trade. And later on, we were exporting copra, which is just a step from exporting the whole coconut, mostly to Europe and the United States for their coconut oil mills. After which, in the 70s, we were exporting coconut oil, which is another step higher. And since then, we have progressed very little. So there needs to be really a more coherent strategy from the Philippines on the Philippine coconut industry. What is on the bright side is that with the development of coconut water as a healthy drink, This has somehow changed the industry, and I call it coconut water being a game changer, because now instead of just one product coming out of a coconut factory, of a mill, we can have a variety of products coming out of one plant, from coconut water to desiccated coconut, to coconut flour, to virgin coconut oil, and so on. So this means a lot, because now it is possible to bring the whole nut to the plant, and the plant can come up with several products from that coconut. It's different from before, where only coconut oil was coming out of the plant.
Sir, the PCA was created precisely to develop the coconut industry of the country, but decades after its establishment, the industry, as you said, is still suffering from problems like senile coconut plants, lack of progress, technology. How do you plan to address these problems?
Well, like I said, we need to craft a new strategy for the entire industry. It is sad to say that the only time that we had a coherent plan to develop the entire industry was during the Marcos years. This was the vertical integration strategy of the Marcos regime. Unfortunately, the vertical integration strategy of the Marcos regime, which was funded by the coconut levy, became the instrument for monopolization by the Coanco group, who then used the funds generated from the levy to use in other ventures like buying up the San Miguel Corporation and so on. And then they also monopolized the entire milling sector through the CIAF oil mills and so on. So the vertical integration strategy at that time became an instrument for monopoly.
Sir, for the benefit of our viewers, can you explain further what do you mean by vertical integration?
Vertical integration means that you develop the entire industry from the agricultural side, which is the production of coconut, to the manufacturing side, which is the production of coconut oil, the coconut oleochemicals, the chemicals that come out of the coconut oil, the production of soaps, detergents, the production of materials, pharmaceutical materials, the production of cosmetic products and other health products, and including food products that coming out of the coconut. So it should be an entire industrialization scheme, going downstream from agriculture down to manufacturing and all the other products coming out of it. This was the plan at the time, and in fact, there was a legislation that was passed for the vertical integration of the coconut industry. And later on, well, in fact, when the law was passed on the vertical integration, already a levy was imposed. But during the 70s, with the Coconut Stabilization Fund, there was a lot of money generated, and this was used further to integrate the industry.
So now moving forward, what do you plan to? Do you still want to do this vertical integration at present? Because you said it was a nice plan, but it was just used for personal gain by others.
Yes. When I say that we need to create a new industry strategy, that should include the vertical integration of the strategy, meaning that we should be moving forward with the manufacturing sector, with the industrial sector, going into oleochemicals, going into the other downstream products. We should pursue that. because if we do not do that, then the farmer will abandon the coconut trees, will abandon the coconut farms. Why? Because the demand will not be big, and therefore the prices will not be stabilized and will not go up. As it is now, as of last week, the price of copra was already at 50 pesos per kilo at the mill gate. Why did that happen? Because there is now competition among the various manufacturing companies in the Philippines for coconut supply, no? Copra and whole coconut supply. So therefore, the prices were going up as a result of demand from the industry side. And this is precisely why we criticize that in the past that Philippine Coconut Authority has been quite dichotomized in its view of the industry. The Philippine Coconut Authority was more focused on the agriculture side, trying to increase productivity, trying to increase nut production, and so forth. However, the farmers were not adapting the technologies because the prices for copra was low. And if you look at the entire history of the coconut industry in the Philippines, the growth in the agricultural sector was as a result of the demand from the manufacturing sector. So therefore, if you neglect the development in the manufacturing sector, the agricultural sector will stagnate because there is no incentive on the side of the coconut farmer to increase production, to take care of the trees, because the prices are low. Sometimes you have a situation where farmers don't harvest their nuts anymore because the cost of harvesting and the cost of producing the copra is higher than the price that they will get from the copra itself. So they do not harvest. And they will cut their trees because they don't see much future in it anymore. But that's what we would like to change now in the Philippine coconut industry.
Aside from the vertical horizontal integration, what other specific programs do you plan to include in your roadmap, industry roadmap?
There are basically two areas that we would like to include in our roadmap. One is that we would like to improve on the social protection programs for the Philippine coconut farmers. The Philippine coconut farmers are among the poorest sector in the Philippines. The coconut provinces, the coconut areas are among the poorest provinces and municipalities in the country. So there has to be, we have to address the social protection of coconut farmers. Scholarship programs, their insurance programs, health benefits, microfinancing, and so on. No? That's one side. The other side also is productivity. We have to improve productivity through improved varieties. We need to pursue the replanting program with better coconut varieties. We need to improve agricultural technology. We might even need to introduce irrigation into the coconut farms. We need to fertilize. We need to encourage the farmers to fertilize and adapt good agricultural practices. And then we also need, like I said, to encourage more manufacturers to invest in the manufacturing side of the coconut industry so that we stabilize the demand for coconuts, stabilize the prices, increase the prices of coconut so that the farmers will continue to improve their farms. These are the three areas that we need to address in a comprehensive roadmap for the Philippine coconut industry.
Do you have a timeline?
We have, in the preparation of the roadmap, we hope to do that within the year, okay? Why do we need to do that within the year? Because we expect that the cocoa levy law
Bill, yeah.
will be passed this year. And then therefore, we should be ready with the programs that can also be funded from the coconut levy by next year. We should be able to start already. And the coconut industry strategy should be a long-term strategy.
Now let's go to the controversial multi-billion cocoa levy fund. It was a promise, it was a campaign promise of President Rodrigo Duterte, but after a year in office, it remains a promise. Where did the problem lie?
Well, first of all, we need to craft a law. Congress, both houses of Congress, need to pass a law that will govern the utilization and management of the fund. Now, there are many versions of the law, of bills. I mean, there are many versions of the bills, both in the Senate and in Congress, in the lower house. So they have to reconcile the different versions, do committee hearings, and so on and so forth. At the moment, both houses have already finished their committee work. The bills are undergoing the deliberation on the floor for revisions, etc., all the processes. And then this will have to be reconciled in order for a law to be able to, pass both houses and be presented to the president for signature. That's taking time. It's been like that process had been already done also in the previous administrations, but unfortunately, it always gets delayed in Congress. However, now we have instructions from the president that we should help in reconciling the two versions. So as of Monday, we had finalized the various positions, the various executive department positions on the various provisions of the law. And we will use this when we are talking to both houses for the bicameral negotiations on the law. So we hope to be able to pass the bills for signature by the president within the year.
Sir, but traditionally, if it's a priority bill, the executive crafts its own version and then it submits it or it transmits it to the Senate or to the House through its allied lawmakers. But what happened now in this case, even if it's a promise of the president, the executive started late, I heard, in the technical working group. So how now moving forward, you say you're going to have an executive version. But the House and the Senate already are past that stage, past the committee stage. How do you plan to insert your amendments, your provisions to the bills?
In the bicameral, in the bicam.
Through lawmakers.
Yes, so it will not be, that's why I said that it is not strictly an executive version anymore. It is, we tried to look at the various provisions and we see what could be the position of the executive here. And when we are, talking at the BICAM level, then we are saying, okay, can this be the way that we can reconcile the two positions? So actually, what we have was a matrix. Okay, these are the provisions under the Senate. These are the provisions under the House. How do we reconcile it? And what is now the position of the executive and how this could be reconciled? So that is now what we will do. We will not be filing an executive version, I think, because that will further delay the process.
So, sir, let's now go to the stance of the executive. When it comes to the definition of farmers, because in the Senate version, they put a limit, 5 hectares and below. In the House, they removed it. So now it's open to big farmers. to
Yeah.
the rich farmers.
Yeah.
So where does the executive lie in this issue?
Because if you say coconut farmers, you must not include those who possess more than 5 hectares, because that means that perhaps your definition should be poor coconut farmers or small coconut farmers instead of coconut farmers as such. See? And also, when you talk of the levy, it was not only the small farmers who contributed to the levy. The big farmers were also contributors to the levy. I remember my grandfather had more than 5 hectares. So, although now, because it was divided up, we have less than 1 hectare. But what I'm trying to say is that historically, the big farmers were also there. Now, what is the reasoning behind the definition of limiting it to 5? It is the fear that in the past, under COCOFED, the entire coconut farmers group was controlled by the big coconut farmers under COCOFED. But if we put in mechanisms by which the small coconut farmers are really able to be represented in the body that will manage the COCO fund, then we prevent the repetition of this historical injustice. So because that is behind the reasoning why in the definition the coconut farmers is only 5 and below.
So that's also you share the sentiment of the Senate. The executive shares the view of the Senate.
Yes, on that issue, yes.
Okay. What about is it going to be a perpetual fund, trust fund, or will you put a time on it, like 50 years, 25 years?
The executive is inclined to support the view that we should have limits, no? Perhaps a maximum of 50, maybe even lower, so that we can review. In fact, there should be a periodic review whether, the trust fund is still required or there should be other mechanisms and so on. Now, with regards to the trust fund, is it going to be 100% put into the trust fund? Like if it is 70 billion, not just giving a number to it. Are we going to put the entire 70 billion into a trust fund and then just use the interest to support programs? The view that we share is that there should be a part of the principal that is immediately put into programs, because a 2 billion budget for developing for a roadmap that encompasses the entire industry, the interest alone of 2 billion a year or so will not be enough if we want to have impact in the short term, right? Because you need money for the social protection programs for the farmers, and 2 billion will not be enough. So when we talk to the farmers, they tell us, we cannot wait, we have waited already for 40 years. Are we going to wait for 10 more years before we can really enjoy the benefits coming out of the coconut levy? What about scholarships for our kids? What about the insurance, the life insurance scheme before is already has bbeen stopped already, and so forth. No, so we need to invest there. We also then need to invest in the replanting scheme and all the other. But that one we could get from the annual interest that comes out of the other part of the fund that is being put into a trust fund. No? So there is a proposal that it could be 10 billion immediately put into programs, or it could be increased. Yesterday I was talking to House of Representatives member Sharon Garin, who is also Deputy Speaker and the head of the committee. She says, I'm even open to make it 20 billion.
20 billion of the 75
of the
billion
75
pesos.
billion. So that one needs to be, we need agreement. Needs to be threshed out. But the basic agreement has been that yes, let us put part of the principal already into programs in order to get the impact in the short term.
What about the controversial list of beneficiaries? Because some farmers I talked to in Quezon said their families have been working all their lives in the coconut farms, but they're not included in the PCA list of beneficiaries. How do we reconcile that?
No. First of all, the PCA is undertaking a nationwide registration of coconut farmers. And we are already, we have covered already the entire country. And as of the moment, we have 2.2 million coconut farmers in that registry. And this registry has been coordinated with all the barangays in the coconut areas. So I'm quite surprised why this farmer that you talked to said they're not in the list. Maybe they did not come out and have themselves listed in their barangays. However, it's not too late. We are at the stage of inclusion and exclusion, meaning we return the list, the clean list to the barangay. When I say clean list, it is because sometimes there are double entries. And sometimes there were so-called farmers who were less than 15 years of age. So I don't think they were really. So we tried to clean it up. We will return it to the barangays, and there will be a period of review at that level. So all the names there will be reviewed by the barangay. And people who, like these farmers that you were saying, they say they're not in the list, they should go to their barangay and have their names included in the list. And if they find that there are misrepresentations there, then they should protest and say, this guy, he's not a coconut farmer, he should be removed from the list and so on. So we are going to do that. But like I said, right now, there's 2.2 million farmers in that list. Now, you're going to ask me, but sir, there are in our statistics saying that there's 3.5 million coconut farmers throughout the country. Well, maybe we should disabuse ourselves of that figure already, because perhaps that figure, 3.5, had been in since the 80s. So we need to really, yes, come up with a good number that is based on the actual listing of coconut farmers on the ground. And perhaps we cannot reach 3.5. Perhaps we cannot reach 3 million. But if that is how it is, then that is how it is. I mean, because, for example, in southern Tagalog areas, in Laguna, a lot of the coconut lands there had been converted already into subdivisions, into industrial estates, into other crops. Davao, a lot of the coconut lands there had already been converted into bananas and so forth, no? So that will affect, of course, the population of coconut farmers.
Will this list include the beneficiaries, those coconut farmers who already died,
No.
but they have their
There will
heirs?
be no so-called beneficiaries of the levy. All the coconut farmers of the Philippines are beneficiaries of the levy funds. We are not going to look for people who say, but I have a certificate, I have a receipt. I too have a receipt. My mother kept her receipts. And say, I should be part of that. If you're no longer a coconut farmer, you will not be, because the law says that these funds will be used for the benefit of coconut farmers and the development of the entire industry. That's the whole decision of the Supreme Court. Now, we cannot go into, listing of so-called beneficiaries. No. The coconut farmers and the coconut industry is the beneficiary of the coconut levy.
Sir, just to clarify, so now, let's say me, I'm a daughter or I'm a granddaughter of a coconut farmer who paid the coco levy in the 70s.
Yeah.
My lolo already passed away. I cannot be part of that list. I
No,
cannot be
unless
part of the
you
beneficiary.
yourself are a coconut farmer. So
Okay.
if you are a Rappler employee and you are no longer a coconut farmer, I'm sorry, but you will not be included in the beneficiaries. You will benefit from the coconut industry, well, as a whole, as it benefits the economy of the country, but not as a direct beneficiary of programs that are for the coconut farmers and for the coconut industry.
What is the reason for that?
It is because it is too difficult to establish who the contributors are. Some of them have died. Some of them never had any receipt, because there was some people in the past did not care about getting receipts. Some did. And many of the receipts, I tell you, there was a scheme before where the monopoly retrieved the receipts from the coconut dealers. No, the traders.
Okay.
They got the receipts from the traders and accumulated it. Do you want a situation where those who accumulated sacks and sacks of receipts will get all the funds coming from the levy, and those who never got a receipt, despite of the fact that they were contributing to the levy, will not get anything? That will be a difficult situation and a very grossly unfair situation for the coconut farmers.
Another issue is who will implement or oversee the program. Will it be the Trust Fund Committee or the PCA? What's your stand on this? Or what's the executive stand on this issue?
There will be a Trust Fund Committee. But whether the Trust Fund Committee will themselves implement programs is another matter. They can look at how the funds are used, etc., allocation, etc., but not implementation. And if you look at the law, other agencies outside of PCA may even implement, diba? Like DSWD, DTI, and so on and so forth. But we hope that because our position is that because PCA is the central authority created by law to develop the entire industry, then the main implementer of the program should be PCA.
But the issue farmer groups are raising against that is the PCA's low absorptive capacity, because you've been underspending now for the past 2 to 3 years. So how can you spend such a big amount of money? What's your stand on that?
Well, I will also say that, if we talk about absorptive capacity, farmers groups have even lower absorptive capacity than us because, you know, they're not that well organized also. And they're small, and, you know, in the past, you know, cooperatives, okay, there are, but comparatively speaking, no? So I don't agree with that argument. The absorptive capacity of PCA can be improved. The absorptive capacity of PCA, together with the farmers, you know, if we work closely with farmers groups, it can be improved. And one of the reasons why there is low absorptive capacity of PCA has been because of the rationalization program. Our personnel has been drastically reduced.
Since when, sir?
Well, since 2013. So, but that can be addressed, no? And given a good industry strategy, given a good plan, given, you know, I failed to mention that in my acceptance speech, I said that we should also look at how the PCA structure can respond to a new industry strategy, because our structure has to be, you know, our structure is old. It is, I don't know, at least 40 years old. So the conditions of the industry before, when we were so limited to copra and coconut oil, is no longer the same as the condition that we have now, where, you know, the global markets are expanding, there are more products, there are more countries, you know. We need research and development to respond to, you know, develop more products and new processes, new technologies, etc., etc. So PCA structure must change.
How do you plan to do it? Do you need an enabling law for that to happen?
I think there is enough power of the governing board to be able to recraft or redirect this structure of PCA. I think there is enough power at the level of the governing board to do that. Now, if we need additional legislation, we will work for it. But at the moment, the powers of the governing board are enough.
We'll take some questions from social media. This one is from Ian Deems, and he's saying, the industry in Mindanao is waning. One reason is lack of support from PCA, like lack of visitations, inspections, among others. How do you address it?
We do have, you know, each region and each province has like what we call the coconut development officers. No? Although
each barangay or each regional level?
Provincial level, municipal level. Now, we seem to be also hobbled by, you know, a lot of our workers, really, I must admit, are contractual workers, because our plantilla does not allow for a lot of workers. So most of our community, our coconut development officers are contractual workers, and therefore, you know, the motivation is not for some of them is not high. Although when I was visiting last week in General Santos City, I hear stories from the coconut farmer leaders that their coconut development officer was, you know, very dedicated and was working, you know, beyond the call of duty. So we have to address this in terms of training our people, in terms of providing good motivation, in terms of taking care also of their welfare, because if you are a contractual worker, you don't have insurance, for example. And just this afternoon, I was talking with our managers, and I was saying, can we find a way by which we can also provide for, accident insurance to our people, health insurance to our people who are contractual workers and are not therefore covered by GSIS. So we need to do all of this, no? And then therefore we will be able to, encourage them and provide training to them so that they can do their jobs well at the ground level.
Another issue from social media is, what is the future of coconut lumber in the Philippines?
Lumber. We have a law that regulates the cutting of coconut trees. Why? Because that is an important crop in order to support our industries. So it should be regulated. No, the cutting of coconut should be regulated. Again, this afternoon I was talking with my managers, and I was telling them we should look at, because you need to cut the dead trees, you need to cut the trees that have been hit by the typhoon and are also, the damage. We need to cut the old trees so that we can plant new ones and improve the variety, But we should target, like, okay, you cannot, if a typhoon hits and kills the trees, that's beyond our control. We should cut them and replace them. If there are those which died of disease, then they should be cut and, we should replace them. But the old and senile trees, we should be able to determine how many these are and therefore know what is the number of trees from this, the old trees that can be cut and then utilized for lumber. So we regulate the cutting of trees in order to preserve our raw material producers.
Last question from social media is, what is the PCA's importance in Philippine government? Why is there a special institution for coconut? What is the difference of coconuts from banana or corn? Why you have a special institution?
Okay. If you look at our agriculture, there are basically three most important products in the country, as far as the number of population dependent on it, the hectareage that is devoted to it, etc., and the number of provinces that are involved, and that is rice, corn, coconuts. So coconut is a very important product. Now, in terms of agricultural exports, coconut is number one, has always been number one in terms of earnings from exports. So therefore, coconut is a very important product, it's a very important sector as far as nation building is concerned. A lot of our population is dependent on it. A lot of our national income is derived from it. And this is the reason, and it has a great potential for industrialization. And this is the reason why there is a special agency that is assigned to look at the Philippine coconut industry.
Going back to the Coco Levy Fund, it was a promise of President Duterte in March 2016 that he will force the issue with Congress if it reaches to that. It's been a year already since that promise. Do you think it's high time for him to do that now?
We hope that he will mention it during his Sona. We will really ask the President to mention it during his Sona and exert also pressure from the executive branch of government on the legislative branch to work harder so that we can have the law passed within the year. That is what we are going to do.
You said you eyed to pass it within the year, so
Yes.
will it be certified as urgent also this year?
Yeah, we hope that the president, we will urge the president to really, certify it as urgent, so that, there is more encouragement on both houses to be to work fast and hard. But let me mention this. I think the idea of an enabling law, everybody agrees that there should be an enabling law. Yeah?
Yes.
So it is not as if it is an unpopular thing in both houses of Congress. In fact, they already have a
Pending bills.
yeah, they have already, the committee level work has been done. So there is, and work is already at the second reading, I think, in both houses. So it's now a matter of reconciling the two. And that is where the role of the executive department is going to be important. That's how I see it. That's why I'm quite confident that it will pass within the year.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And that was newly appointed Philippine Coconut Authority Administrator Romulo de la Rosa. Join us again next time. I'm Camila Lemia.